Greetings and salutations, it's me, Lord Then, back with the AchromaLord, and today I've got another little unboxing and unwrapping video for you, and you guessed it, it's not going to be 1 or 2, won't even be 30, today it's going to be 4 wonderful little booster packs for you. And today it's going to be a little bit different because we've recently had a Realm Rift event at Achroma, and the Realm Rift is a new format which is essentially draft. If you've never been to a draft event before for a card game, during a draft event, you turn up, you have no cards at all, and you unwrap them, and as you unwrap them, you pass them to the next player. You take one, pass it to the next player, they take one, and it goes around the table until the pack comes back to you, and you rinse and repeat. Okay, so I'm going to go through to this today and show you exactly how we did that for the Achroma Realm Rift event, using these 4 packs. As it happens, the Realm Rift event uses 4 packs of cards. Okay? The great thing about the Realm Rift event is you can turn up without any cards at all, and as a very new beginner to the game, no actual decks, nothing competitive, and you can still play the game and enjoy yourself, and even compete against the big name players out there who win the contests and tournaments, and you've got an equal chance to win. Okay. The reason we're going with 4 packs on our Realm Rift event is you need 30 cards in order to make a viable palette. You get 10 cards in each of your packs, which means that you will have 40 cards in total at the end of the event. Of that 40 cards, you use 30 of them in your palette. Unlike a standard palette, they are realmless, which means you're not restricted to having one particular realm of each of the 4. You can actually use any cards from any of the realms together that you draw from your packs during the Realm Rift event. Okay? That does mean that you get some really unusual combinations and synergies between cards coming up, and as you are going around and finding which ones to keep and stick in your deck, you have to think about the synergies you're going to have going on. Okay, so without further ado, let's get cracking. Now, during the event, you're asked to open up your packs and keep them face down. See? The reason for this is because if you turn it up, you'll see what card you've got. For example, there's a Fungua. Keeping them face down means you don't know what's in there. The other reason you're going to keep them face down is that the rear card in a booster pack, the card at the back of it, is actually going to be your legendary or your rare. And what we're going to start off by doing is we're just going to take each card off the back and we're going to keep those. And this becomes our 4 main cards. I'm going to put our 4 packs to one side. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make sure they're on our little map so we can see them. Okay. As we're going to go around, we're going to use these 3 in a second, and we're going to start off with our first one. Before we do that, we're going to have a look at what we pulled up, and these are going to be our cards that we can actually use in our pack. Okay, so you're not actually restricted by anything. Okay, so we have a nice Mutans, actually a nice good Realm Runner. Okay, you deploy him on another player's canvas, and Mutans himself can't attack, but while he's on your canvas, you have to pay 2 shards whenever you draw a card. It's a great way to preventing someone from actually having a lot of cards to play. So even on their first turn, they're having to pay 2 shards if they're going to draw a card. Okay. We have a wonderful Detective Hudson. Okay. This is his standard artwork. He's a brilliant card. He gets +1 for each other character and location on your canvas, and he himself gets +2. That's a fantastic card to have. Conjurer Otrix. Okay. Action, claim a character from another canvas. So someone else plays a character, perhaps it could be a 6-shard character, even a 2-shard or one that you quite like. You can play this card, you claim that card, it becomes yours, and it stays on your canvas. Okay. That is an action, so you're going to do it once, but it's still quite nice to have. And last but not least, Dr. Cornelius Hugh. He has Splat 1, you get to choose 2 colours, and the shard value of cards won in players' hands is reduced by the chosen shards. Okay, and he himself is a +2. He does cost 6, so it's quite pricey, but it's quite handy to have. And when we're picking cards for our Realm Rift event, it's nice to remember that being able to choose 2 different colours and have those become cheaper in your hand is quite a handy thing to have. Okay, now we've got these 4 starter cards. We put those to one side. Okay, that becomes the start of our deck. And then what you do is you take your first pack and we're going to move it to our next side. So we're going to take this, I'm going to move it to the player on our left. Okay, so we take our pack, we turn it over, we flick through it and see what cards are in there that we're going to like and we're going to keep. And then we'll go to our right. So we're going to take these, I'm going to pass them to our right, not our left, my mistake. So we're going to take these cards, pass them to our right, we're going to flick through, and we have a Drake Corruption. Okay, wonderful card, you can sacrifice another card. Defensive Position, one of my favourites. Achroma Worm, wonderful card I love. A Wishwell Barons. This card is one of my favourites for Wishwell. You choose a player whenever the card is deployed, and whenever time they trade, you immediately +1 for yourself. We have an Icy Waters, good action card, an Aureum Diamond. Absolutely fantastic. Costs you 2, gives you +1 back, and every time you dispose it, you get +4. An Advanced Scouting Party. You draw 3 cards, you trade one of them. That means that you instantly put 2 cards in your hand, and you have to trade one of the 3. So whichever one's, for example, going to pay for itself, a nice high shard card, or even a low shard one, you're going to get some of those 5 shards back. Okay. A Corrupted Aureum. The attached character cannot attack, and the card's controller must pay an additional shard and deploy step. And finally, a Dr. Hughes Lab Coat. Okay, that's a brilliant one to have, especially if you plan on trading during your turn. So the way this is going to work. So normally we're going to go to the right. I will take one of these cards that I think is going to be useful during my turn. Okay? So I think the Wishwell Barons are going to be a good card. Then if I take this pack and I pass it to the right hand player, so I put the player on my right hand side, the player on my left is going to be passing me a pack of cards as well. Okay, and that pack of cards is going to come through to me, and I'll say, "Oh, fantastic! A pack of cards. What am I going to do with these? I'm going to take one. For example, I will now take the Defensive Position because I know that's another good card to have. And then once again, I pass these to the right, and we keep on going around this way until everyone has taken all of the cards, and you come down to having nothing left in your hand. Okay. Normally, the final card will be one, for example, with the Icy Waters. Okay. So the character chosen can't attack until your next turn. Not a brilliant card to have, not a lot of use, but that one could turn around and that could be placed on you as the final card, and that's the one you're going to be keeping as well. Okay. There are some cards, for example, Drake Corruption, it's a sacrifice card. Because it is a card using the sacrifice keyword, you may want to make sure that you have some other sacrifice cards going on there as well that you're going to be using at the same time to be able to have that synergy going into effect. Okay, so you're going to keep that in the back of your mind, that you're going to have that nice card to use. You're going to put those to one side, and then you go the other way. So if you started facing the left, now you're going to be facing the right. So for us, we went to the right the first time, then we're going to take our next set of cards, going to have a look through those. We have a nice Fongoir, a Painting Class, Creature Comforts, Bresgavi Shore, Load the Carts, Sacrificial Uvu, an Imp, Lacringi Cliff Dwelling, and a Lacringi Shield Wall. And with the recent changes to Shield Wall is absolutely fantastic now. So when I look at these cards, I know these are now going to be passed to the person on my left, but I know that I've already got one sacrifice card that I have. So now I want to see if I can keep a second one. So if I were to play this one down, it's an object, Sacrificial Ovu. If I stick this on a character, if I then sacrifice this card, when I play the Drake Corruption, I get to use the sacrifice ability twice. Okay, so in my mind that says I should probably try and keep this card. But I also know that Shield Wall is now absolutely amazing. The Lacringi Shield Wall is an action card, so it gives a character Shield Wall 1, and it lets me reveal a character with Shield Wall, and it only costs 2. And that action of giving the character Shield Wall 1 stays in place throughout the game. Okay, So that's an absolutely fantastic card to have. So I'm going to make sure I keep that one first. Then I'm going to pass the rest of these cards around the table, and this time we're going to the left. Okay, we go to the left this time because last time we went to the right. This time we go to the left. Okay. You can see why I've now made myself a little arrow. It is because it gets very confusing, as you saw me a second ago getting confused. Okay. Now we're going to put this little pack down here as well, and then we pick up our next pack, and this time we're going to spin around to the right. It's almost like a song should be playing while doing this. Okay. So we go through our cards again. Here's another Brisgavi Shaw, another Fungoir, Von Ruthro Teapot, that's pretty cool, and a Cultist's Athame. We have an Otrix's Dole of Pins. The attached character loses their character type and becomes an occultist. That's pretty cool to use. Okay. We have an Achroma, one of the brilliant ones to use. This would actually go quite well with the Drake Corruption, because an Achroma is X equals the number of drakes on your canvas. The Drake Corruption, when you sacrifice, you choose a character, they lose their character type and they become a Drake. Okay. So in my mind, that's currently the best card that I should be taking from this before I pass it to the next person. Okay. We have a Draco's Tear and a Jarvis's Satchel. So in my mind, I would be keeping the Achroma, because that's the one I know has already got a synergy with two other cards in my deck. Okay, or possibly in my deck. I then pass this to the right. The person on my right will then take this deck, they'll take theirs, next person takes theirs, and another pack will come to me. And we keep on going around once again until we have no cards left. And last but not least, we have another Wishwell Barons, a Lacringi Trader, a Draco Hatchling, everyone's favourite Draco surely, a Wing Clipper, which is possibly one of my favourite objects to use for fairies and pixies, Pixie Enlisting, Fungoir Eggs, an Occultist Influence, a Ludlam City Gate, and an AchromaLord with the alt art. Okay, so there is one thing that you may have heard of doing when there's a draft event, and that is drafting for value. So if I was drafting for value rather than just to win the tournament, I would probably say I will keep every alt art that appears in my hand. Okay, so if I were doing that, I would keep the AchromaLord. As it happens, I don't have this alt art, so I quite like it. It's also an object that only costs 2, gives you -1 per turn, and the best thing about it is it gives the attached character poisonous. Okay, now it is only poisonous to Achroma characters or Chroma characters. Achrom characters it won't be poisonous to, but that doesn't really matter because nearly every card has some colour in it, especially the Chapter 2 cards where even the Achrom cards have Chroma in. Okay, they're a true Achroma card. Okay. So either way, I'd be choosing this card whether I was drawing for value or drawing to win the game. So I'd be keeping this one from there. Next up, I see I've got a nice Wishwell Barons. As I said earlier, I do like the Wishwell Barons as a card. It's pretty fantastic, especially if I'm playing against an Achrom player who's always having to draw and having to trade. We have a Lacringi Trader, Draco Hatchling, and I love that Wing Clipper. Okay, Wing Clipper is one of those cards where it seems useless at first because there is no resolve on the card, okay? But it's an object, and as an object it means you can play it on your opponent. What you tend to do with the Wing Clipper is it says the attached character may not resolve or attack, which means if there is an opponent character that you have on your opponent's board and that character is very strong and has been attacking your characters and killing them off, you can play the Wing Clipper on there. Not only can they no longer attack your characters on your canvas, but they can't resolve as well, okay? Which is pretty fantastic. So that is how we do our drafting, picking up all of our cards. Now we have our cards. We have 4 wonderful packs of cards, and we need to decide which ones we're going to be keeping. So obviously we start off with our 4 wonderful cards. Let's say I was going to be picking up, I don't know, all 4 of them, because they're all 4 brilliant cards. Okay. Now I need to know what I'm going to be sticking in my deck. As I said before, there's a synergy going on with some of these cards, and I know that Sacrificial Ovu, Drake Corruption, and Achroma are all going to be very good cards together, working as a good synergy. Okay, you're going to be gaining extra drakes. There are no other drakes in the rest of what I've pulled up, which is a bit of a downside. Okay, so for me, what I'm saying is Achroma could be fantastic for me if I had some more drakes. I don't. I'd have to sacrifice these cards to gain myself 2 drakes, so at most it's going to be giving me 2 from what I have here in front of me. So that's a good idea. I'm going to put Achroma on the back burner because it's never going to get me much, but being able to turn someone else's card, sacrifice something on my canvas, and change one of their character types to a drake could be quite useful for me. So that's going to go on the back burner as well, but a side back burner because it could be quite useful if they are playing, for example, a Menagerie deck, okay, or a deck where they've got lots of pixies and they're gaining a drain or a steal for every pixie on their canvas. Could be quite handy to have that. Okay. Now I know that I want to keep the Lacrungia Shield Wall. I know I love the Achrom Claw. I know I love the Wishwall Barons, and I know I have more than one of those. So what I like to do when choosing these decks is to pick out the cards that I know I'm going to be keeping, most definitely sticking in there, and I'm going to place those together. Okay. Aureum Diamond, Chroma Worm. Chroma Worm's definitely coming with me. Okay. Aureum Diamond is going to be another great object or action to have in there. Okay, it's a nice object to have over here. I've got 2 locations. Locations are a fantastic thing to have because they cannot be attacked very easily. Okay. Have another Ludlam City Gate. It's got a cost of 4. It's going to give me 3 back every turn. If I did have the Ludlam City Guard on my canvas, I could erase a character when playing it down, but I don't, so I'll have to just put up with it as it is. Okay. I want another couple of characters, so I've got myself here a nice Draco Hatchling. I've got Lacrungia Trader. Lacrungia Trader gives me nothing in return, but it does let me trade as an action. Okay, so I can play that for 1, trade as an action, and then I can place something on it. If you're worried about your opponent perhaps attacking your cards and you had 2 cards to put down, 1 card you put down has got a resolve on there, the other card doesn't have a resolve, they're more likely to just attack and destroy the 1 card with resolve if they've only got 1 attack they can use. Which does mean that this guy can sit on your canvas looking all sweet and pretty and innocent, and then on your turn you can throw down something like Fungoir eggs on him. It's a nice object that gives him poisonous, which means he can take down a 6-shard card on his own. Okay. Talking of poisonous, I'm sure somebody would tell me off for not having Fungoir in there. Fungoir's best friend has to be the Imp, because why not? Now we have Lacrungia Cryptwelling. For me, this doesn't have a lot of use in this because there aren't any real holder trolls or any big other trolls to find in there other than 1 or 2. It has to be a shard value 4 or less. It's costing me 3, going to give me 1 back, so I'm going to put this guy to one side and say he's not going to be useful in any kind of deck. Similarly, I have Pixie Enlisting here. There are no other Pixies in this deck for me to pull up, so that's going to be a useless card to have even in a quick tournament. Okay. We have an Occultist Influence. 1 steal for each character on a canvas. That could be quite useful. We have a Painting Class. +1 for each card of your cards to splat. Not very useful. There's not a lot of cards with splat coming up here. Load the carts. Once again, also useful. Each time you trade this turn, immediately +1. And you can trade when you deploy the card. Okay. Now we have Creature Comforts. Reveal a creature. There's quite a few creatures coming up in here. We've got Fungoir. We've got Imp. Okay. Just to name a couple of nice creatures. Over here we have Run with the Seapot. Here's another Fungoir. Brisgarvey Shore again. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say we have 2 Brisgarvey Shores to throw in. 2 Brisgarvey Shores, Ludlam City Gate, Wishwall Barrows. That's 5 cards right there. Fungoir Imp. Second Fungoir. Lacrungia Trader, Draco Hatchling, another 5 cards. This gives me 10. Plus I have my four heroics, legendaries, and the worm. That's another 5. So I need another pack, another 3 sets of 5 or 15 more cards to make a viable palette. Okay. What I'm looking for now is something I can have a bit of fun with. Okay, so Jarvis' Satchel. It's a heroic object. Once during your turn, you may swap the satchel for an object on any canvas. So you play that on your own, for example, your own character, swap it for something else on someone else's character. For example, they might have Sintamani Stone or another high value object. Swap it for that, and then attack the character that's now holding the Jarvis's satchel, and then you can destroy them nice and easily. Okay. I've said before, I like these cards. I love the Achroma Claw, Defensive Position, Wing Clipper, Orium Diamond. I'm going to take these 5, so I'm looking for 10 more cards. Okay. Nice and easy ones. We have another Corrupted Orium. So the attached character cannot attack, and the card's controller must pay 1 additional shard to deploy cards. That means that if you were deploying a card that cost 2, you would now have to pay 3. Okay. Now that's the card's controller. The controller is not the person who played the card, it's not the person who owns the card, it's the person who has it on their canvas. So you would play this object onto an enemy character, okay, on your opponent's character, on your opponent's canvas. Okay. Let's have Dr. Hugh's Lab Coat, because it's a nice fantastic 6 shard card. You can trade that for 6 shards or use it to prevent your opponent from draining and stealing in the resolve step until my next turn. Fongwar Eggs is always good to throw in. Okay. The Ultrix's Dole of Pins, where the attached character loses the character type and becomes an occultist. Not a lot of use in this deck, any of these decks, so we'll put that one to one side as well. Okay. We can go with a Draco's Tear. Okay. This has a dispose effect of digging for a character, so you can play the card anytime you like. During your turn you can dispose it, or you can use dispose as a reaction to an opponent's turn. This dig means that if I do lose a character, I can then play this on another character straight away on my turn, or dig it if it's on another, or dispose it and then use that dig if it's on one of my other characters ready. I can then pull back my character straight away from my dregs. The reason why you would use that dispose during your opponent's turn after they've erased one of your characters is to prevent them from then using a card such as Sintamani Stone, which lets them dig for a character from your dregs. Okay, that's when you would use that dispose effect. Okay. Just stops them in their tracks. Okay. So let's go through. We have 5 cards here. We need 5 more. Occultist Influence, great card to have on there. As mentioned earlier, the Occultist Scouting Party. We're going to throw this one in there as well. Okay. Draw 3 cards, trade one of them. I love the Occultist Athame. 1 shard card gives you -1. Who doesn't love having a bit of that? And we will go with a Load the Carts. Okay. Gives me space for 1 more. Now, I have a couple of choices here. I could put down a Von Ruthro's Teapot. It's going to give me +1 back each turn, and as a dispose, I can reveal a resource. I can go for a Draco Temple Scroll. It's +1 again each turn. Action, reveal an action. So yeah, go through your deck, reveal an action. Does cost 3, a bit more pricey, but we have that. Not much point with an Icy Waters. Okay, it just means that a character can't attack until my next turn, so we'll throw that to one side. Creature Comforts, there's plenty of creatures in there. I know I'm going to be pulling one up automatically all the time. There's no real benefit to having this in there either. So we're down to these 2 cards. When I'm looking at these, I think I'm going to have more chance of filling something up with revealing an action if I need to with a Draco Temple Scroll. And it's 3 shards, which means I get an extra shard if I'm going to be trading. And it's a bit more beefier if I want to be using it in combat. Okay, so this gives me now 30 cards to use. Okay. Now you notice that they are different realms coming across. Draco, Wishwell, Spirata, and obviously Occultist. So we don't have to have the same realm in our draft, in our Rift Runner, for our Realm Runner. We don't have to have a particular Realm Runner in there, we don't have to have any particular Legendary. It is very much as you need. You just need to make sure you have 30 cards across all 4 realms. Okay. You don't need to worry too much about your opponent turning up with 30 legendaries, because they're not going to get those. Okay. You have 1 legendary or rare in each of those decks you pulled out at the beginning from the boosters. So each booster has 1 of those in at the back, so you're not going to have something too crazy. Okay. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Tune in for more, and next time I'll be doing 5 card packs, because why not?